It has been a lot going on. I'm going to start right with you, Darian, because you've tackled this a lot on your site. There was a mayoral candidate here in Atlanta, and Kasim Reed, who's running for mayor, was asked the question, as all of the candidates, Lisa Borders and Jesse Spikes, were they for same-sex marriage? And when he said he was for civil unions, the audience just gasped.
I think it's really a testament to how we've evolved as a country and as a community on the same-sex marriage issue. Actually, marriage equality is the way that I'd like to describe it, because it is about equality, and I think now people understand that separate is not equal, and we don't want the crumbs any longer. We want the entire loaf of bread. We don't want civil unions because it is separate and it's unequal, and that's been proven in states like New Jersey, where they have civil unions, and they now realize, after going back and looking at data and realizing that it is separate and unequal, that it's not marriage, and it doesn't give couples all of the over 1,300 rights and benefits that come along with the word marriage. And with all the recent marriage equality gains, people understand that it's bigger than civil unions, and that homosexual couples deserve the same rights and benefits that come along with the institution of marriage.
Well, you know, it's been a long journey to get to this point, Ryan. What I think is interesting, Hillary Clinton said she was for civil unions. She didn't seem to get the same reaction that many people are having. Why do you think that is?
I think it's a testimony to the remarkable speed of our movement right now. When civil unions first came on board in 2000 in Vermont, they were a very radical idea, just the thought that the government would in any way recognize same-sex unions. And in 8 short years, the most conservative of politicians is going to tell you that he's for civil unions just to be safe. And so I guess we expect a little bit more from our friends and people who claim to be with us to move a little bit faster. I think that it's really unfortunate for people to hold marriage as a litmus test for someone like Kasim Reed for mayor or something like that. Because, again, we have to remember that this is 8 short years. And when Shirley Franklin was first running for mayor in 2001, nobody had any idea of what same-sex marriage was. This concept really didn't exist to us. And for us to expect everyone to be on board immediately on such a profound issue, I think is a little impractical, and I think we need to be a little bit more patient. And particularly with someone like Kasim Reed, who has a demonstrated track record on LGBT issues, who went to war to make sure that the state had a hate crimes law that was later repealed. But he put a lot of political muscle in that, and we should not overlook that simply because he hasn't gotten to that point yet where he understands that civil unions are not acceptable for marriage. But one day I believe that he will, and one day I believe most people will.
Well, you know, it's interesting, not to say that all black people are monolithic, but there's even black gay people who have always kind of felt that marriage was something that was kind of pushed down their throat. There isn't really clear consensus in the African-American gay community on civil union, same-sex marriage. What do you think about that?
Definitely not. That's a really good point, and that's something that I've been grappling with personally as someone that's been in a relationship for 2 years that hopes to one day be able to legally get married. I get a lot of feedback from readers who don't think this is our issue because our faces haven't been attached to it. We haven't been at the forefront of the marriage equality movement. When you see people who are visibly, I guess, out there for marriage equality, they don't look like us. So therefore, the mainstream media and the American public gets the idea that it's not an issue that concerns us. We have bigger fish to fry, so to speak, in the African American community. But there are plenty of black, gay, and lesbian couples who got married before Proposition 8 went into effect in California, for example, who it's really important to. Like you said, the black gay community is not monolithic. There are some people who are not for marriage equality, and there's some people who support it wholeheartedly. But I just think that it's something that we should jump on board with, because whether or not you want to get married today or tomorrow or next year, you should have that right as an American citizen. No one should ever tell you, no, you cannot get married, and discriminate against you because of your sexual orientation. Discrimination is just flat out wrong.
You know, one of the things that one of same-sex couples, when you do the research, tends to deal with is how out one partner is versus another. How have some of your friends navigated those waters?
I personally, am the editor of a gay nightlife magazine, so I'm pretty far out there, and my boyfriend is, a school teacher who chooses not to be fully out, and You know, it's difficult. It's a difficult strain, you know, to see someone going through that they feel that they have to protect themselves, and you know, a difficult commentary on our relationship and, you know, whether or not it's worthy of being expressed openly and things like that. But for the most part, you know, there's things that compensate for it, so it's not overwhelming. But it's disappointing that in 2009 someone feels that they have to live a closeted life.
One of the things that there seems to be this kind of perception is the white gay community accepts same-sex relationships and being gay and lesbian more so than African Americans. I really don't know how I feel about that. I don't think that the two different groups are more homophobic than the other. What do you think?
I don't think so either. I just think black people tend to be a little bit more vocal about their distaste when it comes to homosexuality and same-sex couples. But there's a level of hostility in both communities when it comes down to how same-sex couples and gay people in general are treated. Homophobia exists on both sides of the aisle. So I have a problem with that too. I hear that a lot, that black people are more homophobic than other groups. I think the country as a whole is homophobic. It's a problem that all communities of color, no matter what your color is, they're dealing with.
And do you think, I haven't attended a lot of white churches, so I don't know. I know that sometimes the black church often gets beat up on, and we'll talk more about the black church in another segment. But I find, like you mentioned, the Christian right, there are lots of faith-based organizations that have policies and doctrines that don't condone sexuality. Why do so many people put the burden on the black church and make it seem like it's just this exceptional kind of religious institution?
I think pathology, you know, the easiest way to break things down is to generalize and, you know, say that people within this institution have a particular problem. But I agree that homophobia is universal, and particularly in religion. And so white churches are equally virulent. I think the disappointing aspect of it is that institution that was so instrumental in one social justice movement and played such a pivotal role in making sure that this country lived up to its creed of equality and justice is on the diametric opposite side in this battle, and it's very disappointing that we can't see those parallels, and that this is all part of a continuing effort to, you know, make humans more free.
And if I may interject, I think that's where the bulk of the problem is coming in terms of black ministers and their level of homophobia and being so vocal about it, is the comparisons between the LGBT movement and the civil rights movement. It's something that black ministers wholeheartedly reject. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's been the smartest or the most strategic move on our part. There are similarities, but there are major differences between the two movements. And I think that's where we get that in your face homophobia from black pastors, because they feel like the movement has been hijacked, that we're stealing the songs, we're stealing the traditions, we're stealing the strategies that were used, that black people used to gain freedom, you know, to escape Jim Crow in this country and all of the segregationist laws of the 60s. But what they fail to realize is that Martin Luther King got the spirit of the nonviolent movement from Gandhi. Like, it just didn't pop out of thin air. So there was a plan laid for that movement that he got from Gandhi, and we're just, you know, jumping on board from what we learned from the 60s, from the civil rights movement. So I think that's where a lot of that homophobia comes from.
We're going to have you
Okay.
back on that.
Oh.
Like I said, it's never a dull moment here. We
Yeah.
thank you so much. When we come back, we'll be talking about change within the black church. Stick around.